All right, thank you so much for staying with us. Now, the Corporate Accountability and Public Participation Africa (CAPA) has urged Nigerian government to increase the tax tariff on sugar-sweetened beverages. The executive director of CAPA, Mr. Akimbode Oluwafemi, stated this in Kano during the opening ceremony of a two-day workshop on journalism training on sugar-sweetened beverages, tax and industry monitoring. Mr. Oluwafemi, who described the damage being done to health of Nigerians by SSB companies, lamented what he described as the extremely low threshold of the tax, which has rendered it ineffective. The false narratives of SSB industry and the lack of transparency in how the revenue from taxes is expended by governments. There's been so much back and forth around this. But Professor Godfrey Omejefe is a management and investment analyst. He joins me live from Port Harcourt for more on this burning issue. Good afternoon, Prof, and thank you so much for joining the program.
Good afternoon. Welcome.
Can you hear me, Prof?
Yes, I hear you. Good afternoon, and you're welcome.
Now, there has been a lot of talk lately about sugar and health in Nigeria. Why do you believe this debate has gone off course?
Sincerely speaking, I will say that there is no sugar overconsumption as far as Nigeria is concerned. The narrative is actually based on verbal talks, because things like this needed to be supported by empirical data. And so we never found any empirical data actually supporting the narrative that was given to us. But however, you should know that the World Health Organization, WHO, have stipulated or specified a threshold for which countries can be gauged to see whether they're actually consuming sugar in excess or not. And this threshold is about 25%. And for the Nigerian economy, the record shows that we are within 22 to 27%. And therefore, it means that we are within the safe range in terms of sugar consumption. So I want to say that we are not like countries such as Egypt or the United States, for instance, that has high level of sugar consumption. So to say that we are consuming much sugar is actually out of point. It's not the case here in Nigeria. That is my take. And therefore, I want to say that Egypt, for instance, is topping the list in terms of, sugar consumption in Africa. And of course, the United States also is consuming so much. They are among the top list of people. And therefore, the idea that Nigeria is drowning in sugar consumption is nothing else but a fiction and not a fact. So the facts need to be stated on the table for everyone to see. Thank you.
All right, then. But CAPA argues that higher taxes on sugary drinks would help reduce obesity and NCDs. How would you also react to that?
Well, I want to say that CAPA, of course, you've already mentioned what CAPA stands for.
Yes.
That is Corporate Accountability and Public Participation Africa, an organization, of course, really based in Nigeria, where we have the MD, as you've mentioned. But I want to say that their report is mainly, that means their template is actually a global model. The model is not actually applicable to Nigeria. If you have to draw a model, this model would therefore be country-specific. And then Nigeria, of course, you need to draw something that actually at least shows that their facts or whatever figures they will have given is not in reality. You see, most Nigerians actually are not obese. That's what I want to tell you. Most Nigerians are not obese, because if you look at obesity figure as declared by WHO, Nigeria is even ranking very far, far away. That is, we are ranking about 155, country in terms of what? Obesity. So we are not on the top list. Countries like Saoma, which is somewhere in close to New Zealand and Haiti, Hawaii rather, in the oceanic country, is number 1. And the United States, of course, is number 15 in terms of this obesity. And Nigeria is far behind, like I said, with an obesity rate of just about 12.77%. And so therefore, to say that Nigerian is actually, consuming too much sugar is actually out of the case. So summarily, I want to say that you cannot fix, for instance, you cannot fix, malnutrition and poverty by tax soda. By tax soda, you can't fix that. It's just like using a hammer. It's just like using a hammer, when you are supposed to use a microscope, okay, to analyze something. So that's exactly the situation that is actually at hand. Therefore, the report of CAPA is not, 100% a reality. So we need to have reality by, first of all, placing the facts and figures empirically for everyone to see. Thank you.
Now, Prof, beyond health, what are the economic consequences of raising the SSB tax?
First and foremost, I want to say that, the SSB tax is about ₦1 per liter right now, okay? And so if the tax, like what they are proposing, if the tax is now increased from 10 naira per liter to 113 naira per liter, of course, there is a significant change. Okay, there's a significant change in terms of what? This figure. And obviously, it's going to affect producers and consumers alike. Okay, it's going to affect everyone that is consuming and everyone that is also producing. So increasing taxes, therefore, will hinder a lot of things. For instance, it will affect small businesses and even the street vendors. Is going to affect those people. And of course, we also have the risk that those who are presently employed, that means people who are employed presently in various aspects of this sugary process, are going to be affected immensely. And not them alone, it's going to affect, that is, from the lowest chain to the highest chain. That is, it is going to affect farmers and also the factory. More so, this will also go a long way to affect even government. Okay, government will be affected because government, for instance, has an institution that has been established that is the NSMP. The NSMP, of course, stands for Nigerian Sugar Master Plan. So which means the government, of course, have a master plan in terms of what? Sugar. And, they are pumping money into this, into this master plan. And therefore, if you pump money into this master plan, so what happens? It's going to also affect in a long way. So conclusively, therefore, I want to say that it is contradictory to, it's contradictory to say that we are trying to, bring in, government is trying to produce, you're trying to give government something, and invariably the government is also trying to put money somewhere, and invariably the government is taking the money away from another angle through taxation. And that, of course, will affect, all and sundry. Thank you.
Getting more interesting, Prof, I must say. But let me ask you, what about countries like Mexico and the United Kingdom? Haven't sugar taxes worked there?
Well, like I said, it's actually a mixed feeling. Okay, the evidence is mixed. We are not saying that it wasn't possible, but however, in the ranking of things, the United Kingdom and Mexico are also very high up there in terms of sugar consumption. So if we now say that we want to now use the SSBs, okay, the SSB tax to reduce sales, of course, that of course becomes a short-term, is a short-term solution. But what about the long-term impacts? The long-term impact is also going to be there. So, like I said, it's a mixed evidence. It may be good in the short run, but in the long run, you discover that people, of course, might have decided to shift or swift, the consumption of sugar to other forms of what? Dangerous kind of alternative, which is beyond the sugar. Of course, we also look at Nigeria, for instance, and the United Kingdom, okay? So if we look at Nigeria and the United Kingdom, it's not actually the same. The way things are in Nigeria is not the way it is in London or in the United Kingdoms. So therefore, we need to really look at the consumption rates, okay, of sugar in these various countries. So once we look at the consumption rates, then you realize, I think the United Kingdom, of course, is rating about 55 in world ratings, according to WHO. Whereas Nigeria is rating far, behind, 155 in terms of consumption of, which means they are consuming, like the United States, for instance, they are consuming about, the obesity rate is about 45.58%. And the United Kingdom, of course, is about 35.63 or so, And so you won't compare it with Nigeria, that is just about 12.77%. And countries like Niger, for instance, is about 12.77%. So you see that their own peculiarity is not exactly ours. And I think we are not over-consuming sugar in this excess. So what I want to say conclusively, therefore, I want to say that the problems, the global problems, cannot be looked at holistically, but rather we need to come down and look at our own peculiar problem as Nigerians. Because not looking at our own peculiar problem as Nigerians is just like photoshopping and not looking at the reality of life. We have to look at the reality of life as far as Nigeria is concerned and other countries as well. Thank you so much.
Okay, Prof, if not sugar taxes, then what's the alternative?
There are quite a lot of alternatives to sugar crisis. And the alternative solution to this is that there must be proper education. Okay? There must be proper education right from the primary level, primary schools, to teach these children. At the secondary level, they need to be educated. And even at the tertiary level, this information still needed to go on educating people about this, about these happenings. I'm sorry for that. Of course, secondly, we can also try to do or encourage physical activities. Physical activities through the instrumentality of urban planning. Okay, so when we have good urban planning, it will help people to have, physical activities where people can go, to exercise themselves. People can go through distances, and burn off a lot of all these fats that is actually coming up from these sugar products. Then, of course, also say that we can also try to encourage companies. We can encourage companies to start to reduce the amount of substances they use in the production of their products. Okay? For instance, like these beverage companies, they need to reduce the level of sugar. Most of them are already doing it by reducing the level, lowering the level, and also making it become zero levels at most points. So you see zero levels, zero Fanta, zero this. And of course, that's to say they are reducing the level of what? Sugar content in products. And therefore, I want to say that we need policies, therefore, good policies that will drive on educating people. Policies that will drive on educating people, as well as how to improve the participants of.
All right, then. I think that is all we can take on this conversation. I must thank you so very much that we're able to make the point around this conversation. I've been speaking to Professor Godfrey Omeje. They're speaking around the sugar crisis, of course, reacting to the sugar-sweetened beverage tax push. They're making his position known around that subject of discourse. Thank you so much, Prof. If you can hear me, do enjoy the rest of your day. Can you hear me, Prof?
Thank you.
All right, Prof. Yes. If you can hear me, what will be your last word for policymakers and government?
Well, for us, I want to say that we know we are facing a lot of challenges.
Okay, I must thank you again, Professor Godfrey Omeje, Management and Investment Analyst. Thank you so very much for your time on the program. Well, before we go, let's tell you that stocks in the United States dollar fell today while longer dated Treasury yields steadied near their highest in 18 months. Worries of a worsening fiscal